Today on Better Day Podcast, we have Katrina Chase. Welcome back, Katrina. How are you?
Thank you, Leslie, for having me. Happy to be back again.
Great. As we were talking last week about traumatic events, ACEs, what is ACEs, we're going to continue today with that topic, and we're going to be learning and sharing information about it today. So let's talk about generational trauma.
Okay.
What do you think about generational trauma when you hear that word?
Well, first of all, we don't talk about it enough. Generational trauma. When I hear that phrase, those words, I think of what is passed down between families, communities, and it's generational trauma that starts with families, starts in the womb, really. Community-based, it can start all the way back to the Holocaust, and we don't talk about that because it's still affecting today.
Mm-hmm. It's
physical, it's emotional, it's chemical, it's mental health issues, things at home.
Yes, I think that even hate, right? And unfortunately, we're seeing that a lot lately, right. Regardless. And what I'm trying to focus right now with everything that is happening in the world is about humanity.
Mm-hmm.
But you can help yourself sometimes to hear news and to see that there's so much hate in the world, and it's actually painful.
It's very sad to even watch the news.
Yes. And when we're talking exactly what you said about generational trauma, things that are being passed down, those are behaviors that, people teach their kids.
Right.
And then later on at school or high school or college, they end up hating people based on, genetics or based on ethnicity, religion, and so many, we're very diverse, right?
Right.
So we're trying to create unity, but then when you hear people just hating somebody because it's black, hating somebody is white, it just makes you think, where did that all started?
Mm-hmm. And where did that all start? Exactly. That's what you're talking about when you talk about generational trauma. And that's why nowadays we really need to focus, parents need to focus on breaking that generational trauma and what they're bringing down to their kids, because kids are your legacy. That is what you're leaving behind.
Mm-hmm. Environmental. I mean, when we're talking about mental health, and we always say mental health factors, the factors that have the impact on your behavior when
mm-hmm.
it comes to genes,
right?
Genetics, brain chemistry,
DNA.
DNA. Then it comes down to environmental, and it comes down to psychological or family, right?
Right.
And how you perceive yourself. So environment is, sometimes people say, and I hear that people saying, you're the product of your environment,
which is factual.
Mm-hmm. Or there's, a lot of motivational speakers that say, you're surrounded with 5 people that are successful, and you're going to be the 6th one,
mm-hmm.
right? So, but speaking about that trauma, speaking about the hate, speaking about this negativity that is causing the world to be in pain, how can we help that? How can we prevent that from happening? How can we educate, and how can we help our community to heal?
Well, let's back up here and let's go back to what a Better Day does. We bring awareness to mental health in the community, and mostly with ACEs. So let's talk about what are the ACEs and the physicians, and trying to get that in with the physicians so it is mandatory.
Unfortunately, not many people know about ACEs, right?
Right.
And then now we covered this topic, a few topics in the previous podcast that we did before this one with mm-hmm. you. And we are trying to educate and actually spread and share information to our community about what is ACEs, ACES.
Right.
Adverse childhood experiences. In other words, traumatic childhood experiences that happen from age 0 to 18. And we're talking about that age group because that age group is most vulnerable. However, ACEs can happen after 18 years old. It can happen to an adult also, and also elderly. Elderly people are just as vulnerable as little kids. So how can we help our community? So part of our initiatives, and we were talking about it earlier, is the screening of ACEs, right? And how can it be done? I mean, we have two types of screening, one for adults and one for kids. And kids are more sensitive because you remember it's a HIPAA regulation, and we have to also have the consent from the parent, right? Because they're children.
Right.
So, but there's two kinds, and it's a questionnaire from 0 to 10, and each response yes to the question, that specific question, it's an ACE, because it asks about a traumatic event that happened in their lives. So their options is yes or no. So let's say from 1 to 10, if the number one question is like, did you parents scream a lot in front of you, right?
Right.
And did that make you scared, right?
Right.
So if your answer is yes, what does that represent?
It represents one point.
One ACE, right?
One ACE.
If you say no, I'm like, your parents never scream,
Okay.
it's 0. Were your parents at home but never pay attention to you?
Right.
Yes or no?
And if it's yes, then that's another.
That's another one, right? So, and it all depends. And that's how we determine that the person have the number of ACEs.
You know, it'd be very interesting. You just made me think of if the child and the parents of the same child completed the ACEs questionnaire, and then they were both reviewed by the physician. How close would they be?
That is amazing, because precisely the Surgeon General in California find out that CDC had this questionnaire through the Kaiser study, and she loved it, because the correlation that has it's pretty much, it gives you like a GP. It's like it becomes a GPS.
And what is a GPS?
A GPS is something that gives you directions where to go.
Oh, that's what you're
right.
saying.
Like
Okay.
exactly, GPS from the car
Right.
when you need to look for a location. What is
So-
the first thing that you do?
Okay, so it gives you some guidance.
Exactly,
Okay.
guidance is a thermometer, right? Okay, this person had this many ACEs. What do I do with that? It's like when you have fever,
Right.
you get a thermometer and you have 102. You have fever. So what do?
You go to the doctor.
Exactly. So if we are able to educate the community, not only parents or not only our team, and go, because we do a lot of ambulatory services, we do a lot of conferences, and we go to, recovery homes,
Right.
and we implement whatever's that we have, the tools that we have to be able to identify why, the root cause of these individuals, and how can we determine the help that they need. If we're able to talk to doctors, physicians, especially primary care physicians, to implement this screening that, remember, is being used by the Surgeon General in California. If we can show them that this can be used as a tool for them to determine, to write a referral for that specific patients to seek for mental health support as part of their wellness visit. Because if we're talking about prevention, this is the prevention that we need. Not wait until you're already experiencing symptoms, not waiting until, we have cases like the shooting in Parkland, and be able to act and try to find a solution to perhaps cases that might need extreme intervention.
That is the pure definition of preventative. As a child that doesn't know, what they're going to be taught, if they complete that questionnaire and the physicians are aware of it before they get older.
Not only children, also parents.
Right.
I mean, nobody's been, being taught how to be a parent.
Right.
And a lot of times parents are more focused on social media, surviving. There's so many things that are, this is too much distraction right now that are preventing people to actually be good parents. And unfortunately, there's a lot of youth that they're not even 18, they're already parents.
Right.
So what can a kid teach another kid? It's sad.
Yeah.
But prevention, also doing some sort of education about bringing the light to this topic that not many people talks about it. All of us, at one point we hear, breaking the stigma. Let's break the stigma. Let's do these conferences. But what else can we do to prevent cases, extreme cases, from happening, to reduce ACEs? And it's proven based on the study that, if we prevent ACEs in kids, we will be able to reduce depression by 44%, which is a huge number.
That's a big number.
Yeah. And talking about, generational trauma, stop passing it down. Parents have to be more aware of how they speak to their kids and how they speak to other kids.
Right. And because I like that you said how they speak to other children, because your child is watching how you treat other people. And that's still part of generational trauma.
Do you want to talk about your generational trauma?
Yeah, we can do that.
One thing I gotta say, Katrina, is thank you, because it's hard. It's hard to talk about our fears. It's hard to open up to people, to close people to you, people that they've been there with you. And I cannot only imagine how difficult it could potentially be by opening up to a whole community. But I want you to know that we really appreciate everything that you do, because it's helping other people. And it creates hope. I think it creates a lot of hope for people that to see, I've been there. I experienced that. They can relate to you and actually see you and see what worked for you to overcome all those challenges. Because honestly, for me, I had some traumatic experiences as well. I think they cannot really even compare to yours. And everybody's different too. And their coping mechanism is different, right?
Right.
But to speak about my traumatic event, trauma that perhaps maybe I went through, it took me a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you. And please.
Yeah. So to lead off what you just said, it took me a very long time to even know what it means, the phrase recover out loud, because I recovered for a very long time silently, and that never helped me. So to recover out loud, whether it's substance abuse or mental health, those are bringing awareness to other people and showing that you can grow and move past from it. So my generational trauma was very book-like. I was adopted at a young age into a very addiction-riddled family that was very abusive, physically, sexually, mentally, which all led to, me being raped as a teenager and never saying anything. Again, because you're silent, because that's what I was taught. You only know what you're taught. By the time I was 17, I was pregnant. Again, like what you were just saying, a child having a child. But if you look back at my trauma and my generational trauma, my biological mother had me at 16. So why would I know any different? And as that grew up, I watched my stepfather sit there and drink every single day. I wouldn't know any different, that's not what you're supposed to do, right? So as I got older, I thought that's what you did, and I became in a very abusive relationship because that's what I thought. And I stayed there for about 8 years because I watched my mother in an abusive relationship. I was part of the adopted family that was abusive. So that's all you ever knew. So it didn't take me till I was 26 to realize I don't have to live that way. And that's when I decided to move and start to get some help.
Wow, that's incredible. And look where you are now.
Right.
You are really, you are inspirational.
Well, the sad part is I left everyone behind. So everyone that's in that family, they're still doing the exact same thing.
Sometimes, even though I think it could be sad that you're leaving people behind, but you need to be whole. You need to be healed and recovered to be able to help other people.
Right.
And I mean, those people were adults. I don't know what type of childhood perhaps your adopted parents had. But I mean, how in the world can let a couple that have a lot of problems and they're very dysfunctional have a child,
right,
or adopt a child? That to me is questionable.
Mm-hmm. And going back to what you were saying about generational trauma with race and society, things like that, that is something that I did grow up in. Those adopted parents, he was white, Caucasian, and he was so against the African American community that his own sister married a black man, and he made the entire family not show up to her wedding.
That is very sad, and it's very unfortunate that people have that mentality. And then I'm glad and I'm very grateful and blessed that you're part of our team, and that you can share your experiences and be a beacon of light and hope for others. And then what you're doing is amazing. I mean, you have a very thriving business, which is Roots to Recovery. You're working for other organization that is also actually helping a lot with, addiction, people that suffer from substance use disorders. And look where you are now. So I'm sure it takes a lot. I don't even, I mean, we help a lot of people that grow, or they brought up in a very dysfunctional home where the parent suffer from, alcoholism. The mom has another, disorder, and that's all they know.
It's all, yeah. We're only taught what we only know what we know.
I'm speechless right now with hearing your whole story. I didn't even know. I mean, I knew part of it. I knew that, you were in recovery and then you help a lot of people, but God is a lot.
Well, there's a reason that I'm here and I do that. Wow. That is part of it.
And then speaking about the generational trauma, you are one of people that came out of that environment and is working and is positive and is doing good to the community. But like you say, those that were left behind within that same destructive environment, sometimes they become the same. I was reading something about people that they do human trafficking or something like that, and I heard that their kid was being trained to do the same. I think actually it was a movie maybe too that I also watch, and that the kids, when they have kids and boys, they're trained to do the same thing that the parent does.
That's so sad.
So, and I mean,
and they wouldn't know any different.
They don't. Unfortunately, they don't. And then the only thing that you can do as an adult, because as a little kid, you don't have an option. Right. You're vulnerable. You're, and you don't have an option. But as you grow older, then you can see, and in being exposed to other environments, you can tell the difference from what is not the right thing to do and then what is the right thing to do. Right. Unfortunately, in some instances, it's too late. That's why there's so much crime.
That is true. I like to personally believe that it's never too late. So even though, and I'm one of those, I have a little bit of a background, it took me many, many years to realize that, again, I don't have to live that way. So it's never too late.
I like that you say that, because that's what we're trying to do. As a little children, they lose their innocence. But once they grow up, there's always hope and light that you can help. You can help people and make an impact in one person's life. I recently met somebody that she was victim of human trafficking, Dr. Brown. And right now she's a representative in the UN for, she's a huge advocate for victims of, human trafficking and violence. And she's going all over the world in conferences, and she wrote a book. And I'm learning a lot from her right now. So, but it's incredible. Her life, it's just incredible.
And that is exactly what I meant by recovering out loud. She's making an impact. She's going around. She's advocating. She's sharing her experience, and she's showing that, there is a way out.
I don't want to be too intrusive with you, because you've been sharing a lot, and I really appreciate that. Sincerely appreciate that a lot. I'm sure a lot of people are listening are going to appreciate that too. But I have a question.
Sure.
I'm sure that you struggle with a lot of it too still. And I want you to share with us if, there's still a lot of, perhaps people that are not willing to help you. Do you, when you have a lot of groups, right? When it comes to the recovery area, you go to groups, the FAR. I think there's a lot of organizations that,
there's a lot.
Are there like close supporting each other when it comes to recovery? I'm not familiar with that area that much. Just, share with us your experiences, because I know it's an everyday challenge. It's still a good thing, because you didn't only, you will have probably dual diagnosis, because you have trauma, and then that lead to addiction, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I was diagnosed very young at an early age, with depression and anxiety. And, that's how I first started even abusing the medication that was given to me. Because in reality, I just wanted to sleep, and I couldn't sleep because most of the abuse was at night. So there is a lot of stigma, and there is a lot of pros and cons within the community, being in recovery. And there's even more as being a owner of a recovery business. You're looked at as, on a higher standard, on a higher level. So if something comes about, I had a recent incident last year, and instead of support for some of the people in the groups that I expected to get support from, I never did. And in fact, I got the opposite from just a couple, such as bullying and, threats every day, and the absolute zero communication. And it took a mental toll on me, but it didn't take me down because of the other groups that I have. I'm very close, with several recovery community groups, my sponsor, things like that. And I can tell you from personal experience, if you don't have those, every little thing will take you down. And there's not just relapse with recovery and substance abuse, it's mental health. Because your mental health goes first.
Wow. There's so much to learn. There's so much to learn, especially, with our own behaviors. How can we help people like you? How can we help people like that are going through all these things that they're going through, and we don't even know about it? And I'm sure it's very hard for them to speak up.
Yeah, we just need to be more supportive and truly understand what it means to meet someone where they are instead of being ridiculed.
It must be so hard for somebody that is going through all that, and then having to deal with people being insensitive.
Mm-hmm. It is. But again, that's where, your support comes in and your program comes in.
Oh boy, Katrina, this is amazing. You are amazing. You are a survivor. That is, you're thriving, you're surviving, wow. I'm sure you're going to inspire a lot of people and give them hope.
Well, that's what I'm here for.
Because what you just told us today is I'm sure Anthony is so quiet right now. He's probably saying, "Wow, Katrina." Let me like.
If no one knew, Anthony is here with us again today.
Yeah, he's here, and he's always so positive, and he always brings good points and suggestions, and this is what is making us be better. Just don't get nervous. You don't get nervous. It's been a difficult day for me today too.
Why is that?
Somebody very dear to me, especially a friend of mine that is been always my backbone. I mean, she's been my rock all the time that I needed help. And her significant other passed, all of the sudden, unexpectedly. So when you're talking about bereavement, when you're talking about trauma, when you're talking about all that, it identifies. I think it gets even more stronger and deeper. It's just, and it had me kind of down during the day. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm usually very positive, and I think I don't know. You guys tell me because I have no idea.
Yes, you're always positive.
Okay, I think I'm positive, but and I was on the phone with another friend that he's a coach, and he's so positive, and I'm like, I'm jealous sometimes that he's so positive. I want to have like rub off on me a little, because today I wasn't feeling quite myself. I was thinking and hearing everything that we're talking today and we are sharing, how life is so precious, and okay, all of us went through our own share of challenges. Mm-hmm. We overcome those challenges. We're here standing. We're helping other people. But then we also have to realize that life, it's so beautiful.
Right.
And in what makes it beautiful is like people like you, Katrina, people like Anthony, my family,
and you,
my close friends, my community. And I'm like, we have so much to live for. Mm-hmm. But we have to think of ourselves, our mental health. You cannot pour from an empty cup. No. So you need to recharge. And I thank you guys for being here tonight and doing this, because this is helping me too, and giving me, injecting me with your positivity, and then just hearing you and seeing you and see what you have become from all the struggles that you went through is just amazing.
Well, just know that I'm here to support you if there's anything that I can do for you.
Do you think you have trauma?
Oh, definitely. Do you? Do you think you have generational trauma?
I definitely do.
Yeah?
Yeah. I actually,
have
I'm
you
my
really
own.
Sat
listen,
down and,
let me
and
tell you,
about this?
I'm my own guinea pig. Okay? Because every single thing that I think I could share it with the group, I do it to myself. So I sat down and I did my questionnaire. I'm not going to say the responses because once again, HIPAA regulations, and this is confidential information for me and probably my physician,
right,
or my health provider, but definitely do. I definitely do. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's not only the generational trauma. It's like I said, it's different, all the types of trauma. I was like, I'm not by any means, I'm vain by any means, okay? But when I was little, I guess I was good looking. I don't know.
You're good looking now. What do you mean?
So no, but I think there's beauty inside. There's a lot that can be built in the inside that is far more beautiful than the outside. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so when I was a kid, they used to pick on me about my eyes. They used to pick on me, and I was bullied. And I was bullied because I love academics. I was even though I was very feminine and mm-hmm. I did my things, I went to dramatic school to do like theater mm-hmm. and other stuff that my parents put me to do. I was a nerd. I love academics. I love anatomy. I love math. I didn't like English. I didn't like language. I didn't like English either, to be honest with you. And I was like, I will try to do anything, but I was bullied.
Right.
So that caused trauma too. So I didn't. So still to this day, I think maybe that that was a factor for me to be in a way a little bit introvert. Even though a lot of people think that I'm an extrovert, but no, honestly, I'm an introvert. Yes. So yes, I do think that there's trauma and there's still areas that I need to work on. And I love my grandfather. He was my father figure. He was an amazing human being. And since I was little, he is the one that planted the seed of humanity in my body, in my heart, to care for others. So he passed, and to me that was a huge traumatic event in my life, and it changed everything that I wanted to do. I wanted to even be a doctor. I was going to school for medical school, and his passing changed everything in my life.
Right.
So bereavement is part of an ACE. It could be represent as an adverse childhood experiences to me. So that was one of the biggest things that I had to face, the losing of my grandfather.
Speaking of grandfather, my grandfather, God rest his soul, he's no longer with us. But when I was a child, which I can speak of this because I already spoke to my grandmother a while back about it. But when I was very young, and single digits, I remember needing my grandmother and my grandfather adopted or raised me and my cousin a little bit, and I remember him having an affair. I remember the woman coming over. I remember the incident, and I remember the divorce. I never had children, and I never got married after that, because that's what I remember. That was where I lost faith in marriage. I lost faith in children. And that's part of generational trauma, because I don't have any children. I'm not married.
So you have that trauma that in your subconscious probably thinks that that's going to repeat with you. And
100%.
But there's always, opportunities for you to break that.
Right.
And hope that it's not going to happen with you.
Right.
And then also, I believe in energy, and I said, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it. So, and I think you're like that too, because there's no wall that can stop you from anything.
There's nothing. And when I say I'm going to do something, I do it.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So you made me just think of something. So, I've made the decisions, because, like you were saying, my subconscious. But what about you? So how do you feel? I'm just curious, and you can tell me shut up. But how do you feel about the trauma that you've experienced growing up?
I think more so, I don't know. I think it's a trauma that happened after the fact, actually. I think as a human being, you don't want to repeat certain patterns that you were taught at home, right?
Right.
My parents were very always into their academics. So I was never forced to get good grades or anything like that. But I think it was expected of me to excel at school, to get my diplomas every year. I would have to get awards. And if I didn't bring that home, I felt that I was a failure as a little kid in third grade, moving forward. So I think, and that affected me when I was going to pre-medical school, and then all of a sudden say, I'm gonna quit medical school and I'm gonna change my major. And I think that's when I became rebellious of, what I was always felt the pressure, but it wasn't really imposed. It was never like my parent never said, oh, you need to go to school and you need to get good grades. But I think just that her family, they're like, it was expected. It was a cultural thing.
So it was a non-verbal expectation.
Exactly.
So how does that affect you with your children?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I don't think that affected me with the children, but I think it affected me as a human being.
So what I'm hearing is somehow, some way, you broke that generational trauma.
I think I did. Like what I was always thinking when, like my grandfather, right? When my grandfather said to me one time, my mom had a lady that used to take care of us. And my grandfather said to me, oh no, she used to scare us. She used to say, oh, there's ghosts on the roof or whatever. And then everybody, my brother, my siblings, everybody was like scared to go outside the patio at night. And my grandpa said to me one time, why are you guys scared to go out in the dark late at night? And it's like, oh, because they're ghosts or spirits or something, because this other lady was teaching us that stuff, right, and teaching us to be scared. And then he told us, you shouldn't be scared of that. That's not going to harm you. Humans can hurt you, but not the spirits. They're not gonna do anything to you. Right. So one time I was in South America, my country, and I was like, the power went out from all the houses. I think there was no power or something. There was just dark, pitch dark. And I was like, you know what? My grandpa told me there's nothing there to be afraid of. So I opened the patio door and I got outside, and the pitch dark night, not even the stars in the sky, not even the moon, okay? And I'm like waiting for the spirits to show up. It's like, he told me that they're not going to do anything to me. And I'm waiting. Nothing happened. And I was like, ever since then, I was like, I have to face my fears. So like you said, yeah. And that is breaking that generational, whatever that is. Some people may say generational curses. Generational trauma, whatever that means to you. I was like, no, that ends here. I'm going to face it. So I did.
You could be a completely different person. I could have never met you.
What?
If you were afraid of ghosts.
Let me tell you.
Because there was a huge lesson in that. You learn to stick that out your entire life, and nothing stops Leslie.
And let me tell you, and that's why I love my grandpa. My grandpa was my dad, my everything. My parents were separated, divorced, and I didn't grow up with my father present. So my grandpa was always there, and he was such an amazing human. He was well respected in the community. He was just an amazing role model that, like, if I could marry a man like the grandpa was, they don't make them that way anymore. Sorry, guys.
Oh, yeah, that's something else that needs to be broken.
I'm kidding. Broken. You can't. Really. Everybody is unique, and right. I was just playing, guys, by saying that. But everybody's unique. Everybody has their own attributes, and everybody have weaknesses and strengths, and we just have to help people develop the strength, and then help them with the weaknesses, and then make those weaknesses become a strength. Because I think there's a lot of opportunity to people reach their potential, but they need to know. They need the help to reach that potential. It's in us, and we're all different, and we all have different attributes and talents. Yeah. You are amazing at what you do with your exercise and bodybuilding, all this stuff. You tell me to build my muscles like you, I'll be like, Katrina, you know what? No, I go to beach yoga.
Beach yoga. Hey, I like yoga too.
I can play basketball. I love playing basketball.
I'm too short for basketball.
I'm not that tall either, but I think those things I like to walk a lot. I love the beach, but
it's good for your mental health.
Yeah, and I like long drives actually.
Really?
I just get in my car and then I just go for a drive. Sometimes I like when I'm sad or I'm too stressed, I just go by the beach, open my windows, listen to amazing music. And they say music and is therapy. It is. It is. And they have vibrations, so they say, that can help you and change your mood. So that's what I do, and that works for me. But everybody's different.
Yeah. And
what is your therapy?
My therapy, I enjoy the beach. Working out is my number one. I do several different things. Yes, I used to bodybuild. I don't do it anymore. I did try to commit suicide, and so I broke quite a few bones. Was in a coma for just a short period of time, so I no longer bodybuild.
Oh my God, Katrina.
Yeah. So, I mean, but by the grace of God, I was angry, yes, when I woke up, but by the grace of God, I'm here clean, sober. I was able to completely change my career, and that got me into the recovery business. And if if God did not have those steps for me, I would not be sitting here on this podcast with you.
That is amazing. I mean, I'm just saying, you can inspire, you can have people aspire to be like you when they grow up.
I don't know about that. It's a lot.
Awesome.
Okay, well, thank you, Leslie, for having me here again today. I really appreciate it.
Oh no, this is your home. Your home, my home, mi casa, su casa, señorita.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you everyone for your time, for listening to us, for being part of our community. And we can't wait for the next one.
Absolutely.
Bye now.
Bye.